All right, Mike, you want to get started?
Sure thing. So good morning, everyone. My name is Mike Crotty. I'm the chair of the Government Affairs Committee for the Delaware County Chamber of Commerce. I want to welcome everyone to our State Senate Forum, which we hold every year to bring our senators together with all of our members so we can ask, get feedback and give feedback to them about the issues we're facing. I want to, before we get started, I do want to thank our sponsors. We have a presenting sponsor, Energy Transfer. Our silver sponsors are Bars, Gowie, Eamon and Foltz, Comcast, and Monroe Energy. And then our bronze sponsors are Aqua America, AmeriHealth Caritas, Brinker Simpson and Company, Crozier Health, LPL Financial, Meridian Bank, Trinity Health Mercy Catholic Medical Center, the Mercy Fitz campus, Trinity Health Mercy Life, Trinity Health Mercy Home Health, PICO, and Republic Bank. Just a quick overview of the Government Affairs Committee. We meet on a monthly basis to do a couple things. We track and discuss the state and federal legislative environment to see how it's affecting our businesses. And both our business climate and our membership is very diverse in Delaware County. We have small, medium, and large businesses that are both part of our committee and part of our chamber. And those range from anything from large universities, large hospital systems to accounting firms and other small businesses. So we really have it really runs the gamut in terms of the issues that we address and talk about. And we're really grateful for our senators for joining us this morning, as they do each year, to go through all that they're working on and all that we can work together on. With that, I'll turn it over to, before I do that, I'm sorry, just note that the format of today will be, Trish will act as a facilitator. Each of the senators will have an opportunity to speak and discuss what issues they're facing and what issues that they think are important to discuss. There will be a Q&A at the end. So if you use the Q&A function as part of the Zoom, Trish can then, and the chamber can then work those before the senators. With that, I'll turn it over to our greeting from Energy Transfer.
I'm Joe McGinn. I'm the Vice President of Public Affairs and Government Relations for Energy Transfer in Sunoco. From Marcus Hook to Twin Oaks to Newtown Square and all across Pennsylvania, I'm proud to represent the over 1,100 employees of Energy Transfer in Sunoco, in Delco, and in PA. At Energy Transfer in Sunoco, we move and provide the energy that we all need. And over the last several years, in Delaware County alone, we've invested literally billions of dollars back into Delaware County to grow our economy and rebuild a former brownfield site in Marcus Hook and refinery to make it into a premier facility across North America. Thanks for having us tonight, and I look forward to working with you all in the future. Take care.
Good morning.
Great. Thanks, Joe, again, and I'll turn it over to Trish.
Thanks, Mike. Good morning. I'm Trish McFarland, President of the Delaware County Chamber of Commerce, and we're thrilled to have our 3 state senators here with us this morning to give us an overview of what's happening in Harrisburg. So we're going to start with Senator Tom Killian. Senator, how are you?
Yeah, there we go. You got me now. Okay. Obviously, in a normal year, we would be done for the year. But given the fact that the budget's not completed, we're going to be going back on November 10th to complete the budget. As you all know, we did a 5-month budget as opposed to a 12-month budget, given the situation with our revenues due to COVID-19 and the downturn in the economy. We're going to go back and complete the budget. We did do full 12 months for education, debt service, and pension payments, but we need to go back and fund the rest. I'm hopeful. I sit on the Appropriations Committee, and we had a meeting with Treasury and looking at projected revenues that we can get through this and pass. We won't be raising anything, but I don't think, but fund government at last year's levels. That's the hope. And so we'll be going back in after the election on the 10th, and we'll go from there. I'll turn it back to my two colleagues.
All right, thank you so much, Senator Killian. So now we're going to go to our sponsor, Bars, Gowie, Amon, and Foltz, and we have Bill Gowie with us this morning.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Trish. I am Bill Gowie, managing partner of Bars, Gowie, Amon, and Foltz, a CPA firm in the Media and Chadds Ford area. We work with several hundred businesses throughout the area, helping them with their compliance, audit, and tax work, as well as helping them through all this hard times that all businesses are going through at this point. I'd like to thank you to Trish and her team for all the hard work that they have been doing, helping our clients throughout this area through all the tough times. I would also like to thank all the senators for taking the time out today to work with us and answering our questions and addressing any issues that are coming up. So at this time, I'd like to hand it off to Trish, and thank you again.
Great. Thank you so much, Bill. We truly appreciate your sponsorship and your support. So next, we're going to go to Senator Anthony Williams. How are you this morning? Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me on. I'm going to let my colleague, Senator Tim Carney, go first. I was a little late getting on, so I'm
Okay,
getting.
absolutely. All right, sounds good. Thank you so much. Tim, you ready?
Sure. Of course, they're decided to collect leaves in front of my house right now, so it's hear some background noise. It's really a pleasure to be here today. Our basic job as senators is to listen to our constituents and listen to people in our district, and to try to figure out how the best way to navigate through what may eventually become some kind of new normal. We don't know what that is yet. We don't know what it kind of means. We do know that the COVID crisis is still here. It hasn't abated. I know people are tired of it. We still have to encourage people to wear masks and to wash hands and keep their distance, et cetera, et cetera. We are focused on trying to navigate with everybody's, health and safety, and also the health of their businesses in mind as we move forward. We have obviously a big election coming up in a week. Tom's running for re-election, so Tom, good luck on next week as we go forward. We're in my office. We deal with everybody who comes in with every kind of question, and we know that this has not been smooth. We know that there have been issues, particularly around unemployment compensation and trying to get people their payments. We know there was issues with what businesses could open and when they could open, but at this point, we need to focus on how we open our businesses and how we do it in a safe way that really does protect people. Because we're seeing, spikes. We have our numbers are high again, which is not great. School openings seem to be going fairly well. I mean, it's obviously a little rough with the hybrid systems for folks, but the people I talk to are they get it. We are on the Senate level. We're really worried that we're losing a whole year of education for our kids. That it's not the same. But I have to hand it to our school administrators and our teachers. I think they've done amazing work. Teachers are working twice as hard as they did before, because they're teaching both in the classroom and online. So we were happy to work with county government around the Delco Strong program, which I think was very successful. And the third round of that funding is coming out soon, so we're looking forward to that. It's trying times. The COVID crisis has really put a magnifying glass on our kind of social inequities and what we as a society need to do to move forward. Obviously, Senator Williams is dealing with a police shooting yesterday afternoon in West Philadelphia. So it's We're not out of the woods yet, but we can. But the best thing for us to do is to hunker down and work together to get through this. So, with that, I'll yield the rest of my time.
Thank you, Senator Tim Carney. Appreciate it. Now we're going to move on to one of our sponsors. We're going to Comcast, and Caitlin Ganley. Caitlin, thanks for being with us this morning.
Thank you, Trish, and thank you to the Chamber for hosting this, and thank you to all of our state senators for being here. This is extremely helpful. As many of you know, during this extraordinary time, it's vital that many Americans stay connected to the internet for education, work, or even personal health. We've been looking for ways to help through our Internet Essentials program. I know a lot of folks on this call have already heard our story with Internet Essentials, but just as a reminder, all new Internet Essentials customers who apply and are approved by December 31st will receive 2 months free of Internet Essentials. And through December 31st, we are temporarily offering amnesty to households with past due balances. And sometimes that did hold people back from signing up for the internet. So we hope that that will be an incentive to join. One last thing is Xfinity Wi-Fi hotspots located in businesses and outdoor locations across the country will be available to anyone who needs them for free, including non-Xfinity customers through December 31st. We believe that this is our commitment to our community, and together we can get through COVID. So again, thank you for having Comcast Internet Essentials here today, and I will turn it back to you, Trish.
Caitlin, thank you so much, and thank you for your commitment to the community. As we know, we all need this right now. So now we're going to move over to Senator Williams. Senator, you ready? Can you give us an update on what's happening?
Yeah, thank you. So I'll tick off the things that we have been engaged in, because obviously a few things are front and center. Most importantly, the consequence of the virus, which has not left us, and the ravages on our community who are in business, particularly small business. I will say that I'm proud to say that while it's not enough, we have done some things. The Small Business Assistance Grants Program, about $200 million was created for small businesses to participate in. So Delco Strong received a significant block grant from the Commonwealth to support that. But above and beyond that, the General Assembly, through us, through the Senate in particular, Democrats in particular, created a program, historic in nature, that directed investment and grants to small businesses across Pennsylvania, and Southeastern region used it in very effective ways. The health industry received about $100 million direct payments from the federal government, daycare about $108 million, renters and homeowners $175 million, in K-12 schools $150 million. I was proud to be one of those who voted for 2513 to allow restaurants to safely reopen and lift some of the burdensome requirements that were placed upon them during the periods that we had to contain people. And we are continuing to advocate for small businesses and those of you who provide employment for many of us that we represent. Tim alluded to what has occurred in my district, and I probably can see my eyes are quite red because I've been up quite late dealing with it. And I'm going to say something directly to the business community. When I was a kid, I knew the guy who ran the barbershop. I knew the guy who ran the small restaurant, et cetera. They were fabrics to the community. They employed the community. That has not dramatically changed. This is a time period where we need the region. This chamber cannot stand by itself any more than the Philadelphia Chamber can stand by itself. Right now, we have to find a way to be much more connected to our communities. If you didn't see the news last night, what you saw was unfortunately someone getting shot. Those issues, which I won't talk about today, but what happened on that block afterward, we're not protests, we're not rioting, we're not people tearing up. What you saw were people were frustrated and making comments, and a significant number of them are looking for jobs. They want a different life, and they were peaceful in their outrage about what happened. Literally 2 hours from that, there are people who have a different agenda, and that is to be disruptive. And I don't want these communities which are being affected to be overrun with that image or that appearance. But what I also need is an answer. And we have to be able to respond to these people who are doing the right thing, that we're saying, participate in your government, respect law enforcement. But at the end of the day, for all the companies that we're on here that we're talking about, I don't know exactly how they're connected in other parts that are underrepresented. And I'd like to hear some of that conversation today. No, I know that may not be a part of the script, but if we're going to have these conversations, for me, they have to be very real and very tangible and very approachable and felt by the people who are in these communities. And I want to be able to go back and say that we have partners that, you know, are in the suburbs, that are employing people, that know about the consequences, that are advocates for this, so that we can have a peaceful community that protests when they think something's wrong, but not what we saw on 52nd Street. And I don't want any image of that to linger in our minds, so that when I'm approaching you all separately about the needs that we have, that's what they think the community represents. It does not. But it can no longer be me as a politician standing here, you as the chamber standing there, some communities standing upright and other people not. So my comments today are certainly to say what we have done in the General Assembly in this pandemic with the COVID. And frankly, unfortunately, there are some of you who are, or some of you all that you represent, are not making it through. The pain of that is as real as the pain of the people in the neighborhood that I represent. But we got to find a way to not necessarily stand on these social issues separately, because we never have as a nation, and we never will be able to go forward successfully if we don't figure out a way to help each other in moments of crisis to provide some level of clarity. Thank you.
Senator Williams, thank you so much. And I look forward to continuing this conversation with some questions, and we'll get to that in just a second. So thank you for your heartfelt words and thoughts. So we're going to move to one of our sponsors right now, and then we're going to go to the questions and answer period. I would like to remind everybody what Mike told us in the beginning, that we are encouraging those that have questions to put them in the Q&A portion of the Zoom. We did take some questions prior to the event, so I have some lined up, but I would love to see what our folks on the call are thinking, and especially to the point that Senator Williams just made. So please feel free to share your thoughts as we move along. So now I'd like to turn it over to Matt McLaughlin from Monroe Energy.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Matt McLaughlin, and I work with Monroe Energy. Monroe Energy is a wholly owned subsidiary of Delta Airlines. We operate an oil refinery located in Trainer, Marcus Hook, and Chester. Our company was founded in 2012 on a site where refining has taken place for more than 100 years. Obviously, things have changed somewhat with the pandemic, but prior to that, our facility was fulfilling about 70% of Delta Airlines' domestic jet fuel needs through direct production and various exchange agreements for our non-jet fuel products. We have about 51 miles of pipeline that run throughout Delaware County into the city of Philadelphia, and actually under the Delaware River into Woodbury, New Jersey, where we're able to tie into other pipelines that bring our finished products up to places like the New York Harbor. We have 3 storage terminals across 2 states. And our company employs 500 full-time individuals, and many of them are residents of Delaware County and throughout the Southeast region, and hundreds of contractors working on site every single day, can be up to 1,000 or more, depending on the types of projects that we have going on. Our facility is capable of producing 200,000 barrels of finished product. And that finished product includes everything from gasoline, diesel fuel, jet fuel, propane, butane, home heating oil, and many more. So appreciate the opportunity to be here and support the chamber, and I will turn it back over.
Great. Thank you so much. We appreciate Monroe's support, and Matt, we appreciate you being with us this morning.
Thank you.
So as we move into the Q&A portion of the event here, I'm going to start with Senator Williams' comments about social injustices, social inequities, and we're meeting since, I guess, over the past 4 or 5 months. The chamber itself has been working on a business and economic equity committee, because the Chamber of Commerce is not a social organization, but we are a business and economic organization. And we want to know that there is that everybody is getting the same opportunities that they need to. And we know that's not happening. So some of the things that we're working on as a Chamber of Commerce are working on partnerships, strategic partnerships with organizations, so we can increase hiring and training for those that are our minorities, all, across the gamut of them, that we can expand the purchases of larger corporations, government, municipalities. So minority-owned businesses are represented in those contracts. And we're also working on relationships with organizations that do support social justice and focused on eradicating injustice and inequality across the county and the region. Senator Williams said, the chamber does not stand alone, and neither do the communities. So I want to offer the opportunity for a minute because, we typically don't talk about these things at a Chamber of Commerce, but Senator Killian, Senator Carney, Senator Williams, do you want to offer any thoughts about what's happening and how we can move forward together? Because, I like to believe that in this region, no matter what job you're in, whether you're a police officer or you're the small business owner on the corner, that we all really truly believe that Delaware County is the best and that, our region is the best, and we can move forward working together. So are there any thoughts that you want to share before we move into some of the more business related issues and topics?
I do, but I want to make sure, I want to hear my colleagues comment first, and I'll be happy to give some suggestions.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Tom, you want me to go?
Yeah, go ahead, Tim.
I mean, obviously the equity issue is a huge societal issue. I mean, it's that the business aspect of it is certainly part of it. And, I say this as an old white guy, people don't start in the same place. So, there have been, for hundreds of years, we've made it more difficult for our brothers and sisters of color to advance and to we've put roadblocks, everything from the like the GI Bill after World War II, which wasn't available to most of our Black soldiers. There were advantages that people got because of their background and their families and everything else. That we need to find some way of overcoming that and trying to level the playing field at the base, not just at the end. So I think awareness is probably the biggest thing we can do now, and sort of an understanding about what systemic racism actually means. I often say it's not the sort of cartoon racist. It's not necessarily the Proud Boys who are our big problem. It's just the gut reactions that people have in situations that we need to try to overcome, and that's difficult. I mean, it's not going to be an easy way forward. So I think the fact, Trish, that you're acknowledging this and you're actually coming out and saying that the chamber needs to do its part to try to get towards equity in business and in employment, I think is a great step. So thanks for that.
Thank you. Senator Killian?
Yeah, and I'll just follow it up. I mean, Senator Williams said it, the folks that were peacefully protesting and they're frustrated and they're looking for answers, but he also said that many of them don't have a job, and that's where the business community comes in. And I really think it starts with education. I mean, if you look at my district, I mean, it's not fair. I mean, I look at Chester Upland School District versus Rose Tree Media, completely different. We have the fair funding formula currently to make sure that school districts get their fair share, but it only applies to new money. It was actually an amendment that I offered after the commission work. And we need to take a look at how we fund education. You have places that just don't have a tax base, so they can't raise the revenue necessary to fund the schools, and we at the state level aren't giving them the money they need to make that difference up, because education leads to opportunity, and the business community provides those opportunities. But we really need to start with education and talk with some of the things that Tim talked about, that there are just some basic inequities that people start in different places. Some people are starting on third base, some aren't. And I think Senator Williams, being an African American, talked more about it. I'm like Tim, gray-haired white guy. So I'll turn it over to Senator Williams, and I'd love to hear what he has to say.
So Trish, I thank you for your opening in this space. You guys keep talking about gray hair white guy. I'm just a gray hair black guy. We're all on the same generation. So to my friends who are in business, when we get into these conversations, they tend to sort of go into a social justice conversation. This is about economics for me. You know, I'm a guy who has a degree in economics. I worked for a large corporation. I've owned my own business. This is about making money. And we're missing a lot of opportunities. Some people actually do start on first base, but they don't have the opportunity. And we got to be honest. You know, we hire those who we're familiar with and from our, surrounding circles. And frankly, that's what happens. That's sort of what happens in Delco. That's what happened in Philadelphia. We don't necessarily have a mechanism in place that makes sure that we go beyond just the people we're familiar with. And I don't care whether you're black or white or Asian or Latino, that's what we do. And so part of our hiring practices have to be intentional because we're missing qualified applicants who may be African American, who may be Latino, who may be Asian. I don't know, but we're missing them who are graduating from our own institutions. Westchester is right there. Cheney is right there. And the process of how we employ people is somewhat of a mystery to most of us because we don't all follow a uniform process. And so I think working through the chamber and, working with young people like Trish, who does not have gray hair, who has a different vision of how this works, we need to be intentional about giving you information about how we do that. So that one, people don't think like they're doing a favor. I'm not talking about affirmative action. I'm not talking about a handout. I'm not talking about do something that's inconsistent with hiring somebody who's going to be a tax-paying employee, who's going to buy more stuff, at the store, who's going to be a part of our economy in Delaware County, who, will go into the restaurant at the end of their block, is a part of driving, money to the bottom line. And I think sometimes in the course of us doing whatever we do in business, and many of the folks who are on here today, who are partners, your bottom line responsibility is to make money for either shareholders or the company and make a profit. That's first and most paramount. Two, the technique about whatever industry you're in, that's second. And then third, how we employ people is kind of all over the place for everyone. Certainly though, so if you bring in this conversation about how we employ more people from the community, more people of color, it becomes a little bit less of an importance. Not that the conversations are not genuine or well felt, but we don't have a mechanism. So one of the things I suggest and I would love to do is work with Trish and others and the companies to figure out a way that one, they are looking for the best employees and intentionally looking for a broader base of employee, which will lead to a broader base in terms of the conversations that we have. And so I think that we start there. Certainly the issues of race are sometimes felt to be touchy. People don't want to offend anyone. Tim knows me well enough, and so does Senator Killian. They know I offend people every day. So I'm not offended by people who don't know something. That's not the point to this. The point is we want to increase the economy, grow the economy, and have a broad base of people being employed in Delaware County. That's simply what I'm talking about right now. So I thank you, Trish, for leading into it and allowing us to start off there.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate it. And I appreciate all of your support. And especially as we move forward and advance this committee that we're working on in the chamber, and Vince Gordon, who is the chair, he's also my board of directors. We're looking to make a big announcement. We've been working on this since probably about June, because I reached out to Vince and I said, I don't know, help me. I only know what I know. So let's dive into this a little bit deeper. And we'll look to make a bigger announcement, but I will kind of turn to you and look to you all to help us make this more of an impact and, bring in everybody together as we advance these issues and make sure that it is equality in economics for all, because that's what we can do. Those are the easy things that, for us, the tangible things that we can do. So I appreciate everybody sharing their thoughts with that this morning. So want to move into a couple things. We did talk about education a little bit, and I do have a question that was submitted from Shirley Howe from the Public Citizens for Children and Youth. And Shirley mentioned a recently released state report by the Keystone Economic Development and Workforce Command Center emphasized that access to and availability of providers are two major child care challenges for employees and job seekers. And it's particularly important when companies are considering expanding or possibly relocating to an area. Further, the report spoke to the need for childcare on weekends and for workers on second and third shifts. Can you share your thoughts on access to childcare as economic growth? Because we're talking about, equity and all those issues. And I do think that this ties to this a little bit. So can anybody share their thoughts on that?
Sure, I'll start. This seems like almost kind of like a no-brainer issue. If people are going to work and be able to support their families, then they have kids, they need to be able to have childcare that's appropriate. And you're right, it has to be across the board. It has to be for people on third shift, and as well as people who are work a more traditional job. We did fund through the CARES money this year. We did earmark I think it was $150,000, $150 million through for childcare. That we were seeing places that had their numbers down by 80% in terms of people, because people were at home, right? But we knew when school was going to start up again and everything else that it was going to continue to be an issue. We certainly we get it. We understand that this is something we need to do. It's the COVID thing makes it very difficult for people to feel necessarily comfortable. Most childcare is hands-on, and it's a bunch of little kids together in small spaces. So it's a struggle. It's one we're certainly aware of, and we know we need to solve. But we have taken concrete steps towards trying to make it work, and we're going to just continue. So
I'll just add that, as Tim mentioned, we did fund out of the CARES money, money for childcare, but we need to do more. We still have about $1 billion, I think, maybe a little bit more in CARES funding available. That, and I would like to see some of that go towards childcare. And also, we need to take a look at when utility assistance. We have literally hundreds of thousands of people are going to be in deep trouble when the moratorium ends. And I'd like to see some of the money go for that. I know we work by part. I work with Senator Art Haywood on the mortgage and rental assistance with CARES money, and I think we need to do more of that. The child care is a major issue that we have to address, and I'm willing. We need to work together to do that. And I think here in the Southeast, we want to do that. And then the CARES money that we still have, from what I hear, we have until the end of the year. And I think we senators love to blame the House, but I think it's the House that has been holding up getting that money out to where it needs to be, both for small businesses and childcare and all the other things we can do with that money. And I think it's important we get that done when we go back.
Great. Thank you so much. Gonna go back a little bit to the broadband. We talked about that in the beginning. With the broadband bills moving through the legislature to help underserved, such as in parts of Delaware County and rural areas, do you think that will move things forward? What's happening with that?
I apologize. Can you say the whole question again?
With the broadband bills moving through the legislature, what's happening with that? Can you give an update?
It's roaringly slow. I think that I didn't even know how to explain it, but the reality is that we are cutting off a part of Pennsylvania and access to all sorts of opportunities for economic inclusion, education, socialization, and it's not like people don't know it. It's like right in our face, but this is an equation of math. And so people are making decisions about how they invest or don't invest. I do think that, frankly, the state and the federal government, not just in Pennsylvania, but across the nation, have to make supplemental investments to cause a much more aggressive approach in this space. But I don't think until that happens that much of what we talk about ad nauseum will result in change, because the conversation around the profit margin is always there. It's no different than, now we talk about alternative energy as if it's almost a given. But if those of us remember on this call, when we first started talking about it, it was too expensive. And so that was the argument against it. The government began to invest in it to offset some of the costs, and now it's part of almost every major utilities portfolio and growing as we speak. So we have to do something similar in this space.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, what we're seeing, particularly in the rural areas, is that where it doesn't make any sense for the companies to expand. It's expensive to run fiber optics, and um, the small cell technology is still can be troublesome in the mountainous areas in the in the Commonwealth. But we're also seeing the same kind of connectivity issues in our urban areas too. I mean, we have areas in Delaware County where there's neighborhoods that don't have access, and Comcast has done some nice things in this area trying to do things. But even the low cost internet essentials is still beyond some people in terms of we're seeing in the William Penn district that Tony and I share between our districts. They have something around 40% of their students don't have access to broadband, and this is we're about as dense as you can get for an inner ring suburb in that area. So there's a lot of my colleagues who I sit on the Communications and Technology Committee. There's a lot of my colleagues who still think there's a marketplace solution for this. But I think this is one place where government needs to step in and try to do what needs to be done in order to get that access, because it's fundamental to our society right now as we move through things.
Okay, thank you. So I want to move along to a different subject. Can you please explain your votes on House Bill 2513, which, as an explanation to our audience, was legislation that led to more flexibility for our restaurants to reopen? And if you would have voted to override the governor's veto if it came to the Senate. Can you just talk a little bit about that? Because we have so many restaurants here in Delaware County that have been hit hard. And I'd love to just share this with them.
Yeah, I can go. I supported that legislation. I find it hard to explain. We need to be, as Tim said early on, we need to be careful. This virus isn't going away right now until we get a vaccine. So social distancing, wearing masks, doing all the things that just make common sense that we need to do. And that said, however, we've been able to operate Walmart, Home Depot, a lot of businesses safely. And I think we could do the same with our restaurants. I think the restrictions are a little too strict, and that's why I supported it. The restaurant industry is being devastated, hospitality industry. I chair the CRD committee, which oversees gaming, tourism, and economic development. And our restaurants are a large part of our tourism industry, which is the second largest industry in Pennsylvania, behind agriculture. And I think we need to work together to see what we can do to give them more flexibility. It was a House bill, so obviously the override had to occur in the House, and it didn't occur. It failed, I believe, by 2 votes. So we're still in the same situation we are. But the governor has made some concessions as we learn more about the disease, and hopefully we can work together to continue that and work to get our restaurants open, but open safely. They have to be open safely.
I think that, well, first of all, I mentioned earlier on that I voted for it. So I think my position is kind of stated by the record. The issue of the override is a different conversation. I think that most of us recognize we want to do as much as possible to aggressively open up places that employ many people who are depending upon it. We also recognize that, and the governor recognizes the responsibility as the chief executive, that the surge has returned. And before, when we were in the middle of this debate, they were clear that it was going to return. So he has a responsibility that we do not have. And many of us want to respect that while we want to fight for the people that we represent. And so I frankly did not take a position on the veto override because I wasn't confronted with it. And I still can't tell you what I would have done given the complexity of what the governor is facing and, the people in my district are facing at the same time.
So, we're talking a little bit about the restaurants, but as we move forward, we know we're going into flu season, cold season, and the virus we see the numbers are going up. One of the issues that is always in the back of my mind, and I pray that it never happens again, is shutdown. And I think we have so many lessons learned for businesses that we can stay open safely, as Senator Killian was alluding to, that, we have these tools in place to keep us all safe and mitigate the virus. Can you each talk a little bit about the hopes that we don't go backwards in terms of our economy? We know that schools are doing their thing, the hybrid way to kind of keep students safe. Some are open fully, some are doing hybrid, and we hope that it stays that way. But in terms of the business community, the restaurants, small business owners, can you talk a little bit about that and hope that there will be a fight to make sure we stay open?
Well, obviously, it's a complicated issue, right? I mean, I supported the restaurant bill as well because I know how it was affecting our small business owners. But I think it's important to look at the way that transmission sort of the general thought about how it occurs. For example, I have a COVID-19 app on my phone from that the state was essentially pushing. That lets me know if I spend 15 minutes within 6 feet of someone who has tested positive. So think about that for a second. That's 15 minutes within 6 feet of one person in terms of seems to be a metric that is now being used for how the virus could get transmitted. So that's why restaurants in particular, the governor is so concerned about it, because people spend more than 15 minutes in close proximity with other people. It's why the issues of school reopening is such an issue for how we kind of work in these things. Everybody wants businesses to function and wants, we small businesses are the backbone of our economy in so many ways. And we've seen lots of restaurants who were doing it right. We've seen a few who weren't. It's the kind of one of the big discussions we have with the governor's office all the time is, who's sort of quote unquote policing this? Who's like, how do you work those things? Because I've certainly heard from bar owners that, the Liquor Control Board is being draconian about things, and other ones who've never seen them. So it's kind of like it's always a hard thing from a granularity point of view. We just need to be smart and try to. Everybody says listen to the science. The problem is that the science is still learning, right? I mean, they're thinking about it differently now than they were thinking about it 6 months ago, and they're probably going to be thinking about it differently 6 months from now. And we need to be nimble and be able to react in positive ways. But trust me, we all want businesses open again, and we all want people to succeed.
Thank you. Any other thoughts on that?
Well, I think that
Jon.
this conversation is driven in large part by the circumstances we're confronted with. If the virus continues to surge, then we're clear that if we're telling people that we can open anything in a safe way with the numbers that we're seeing, then we are being disrespectful to not just the science, but to the business owner. The last thing we want is a waitress or barber shop or barber owner to lose their life or a loved one in the pursuit of opening up their business. What we should be doing is resolving our political differences in Washington, D.C. and providing more money so that these people can get through this period of time that we know is life sustaining, that their rent, their home mortgages, their utilities, their food are supported by us in this time of need, because that's what needs to happen. And you don't have to do one without respecting the other. Now, when it turns to what we saw in the declining numbers, then yes, that's an appropriate moment and space for us to aggressively begin to say, look, And certainly when a vaccine or anything else is discovered, that's an appropriate moment to have a very direct conversation with the governor in particular, about let's begin to aggressively move to make people safe, but allow them to open up their businesses, not just 50%, but to begin to open up their businesses. But it is driven by the circumstances.
All right, great. Senator Killian, want to offer any thoughts or?
Just quickly, we don't want to go backwards, but we want to make sure we do it. God forbid we go back to a full shutdown. Both from there's a toll taken when people can't go to work too, a psychological toll, an emotional toll, and especially as here in the Southeast, we are the economic engine for the Commonwealth. The vast majority of the money that comes to Harrisburg comes from our 5 counties. So I was, like my colleagues, I want us to get open as soon as we can in a safe way. And I think there's ways to do that. I understand what Tim's saying, but you could space people apart in a restaurant safely. And he even mentioned it too. A lot of the restaurants are getting hurt because of some bad actors. When I know in Jersey, when they lifted it for a little bit, all of a sudden the bars were packed shoulder to shoulder. Not everywhere, but some places, and they had spread. And those bad actors are ruining it for the restaurants that can operate safely and wouldn't put people at risk. So, we need to make sure that as we move forward, that we watch out and take care of the bad actors, so that we aren't punishing those that are willing to open and operate safely.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate your support of the business community as well as keeping everybody safe. Want to move to another topic. We have a question in our Q&A that I think all the panelists saw, but Deanna's Law focuses on drunk drivers. I know that it just failed, Senator Killian, but is there any, will be reintroduced in the future? Can you just talk a little bit about
Well, let me first do a little background. That's my bill. It's named for Deanna Ekman, who was killed by a 6-time DUI in Upper Chichester with a high BAC level, just a repeat offender. And this bill goes after the worst of the worst. Drunk drivers that just are never going to not stop driving. This gentleman actually he had two DUIs in front of at the same. He wasn't convicted for a DUI when he got another DUI. And what this bill does is it increases some penalties, but most importantly, it provides it's new technology that's worked very well in other counties. It would mandate what they're called continuing alcohol monitoring devices that go on a person's ankle, and they can tell when they begin drinking. And this is for folks that are three or more DUIs. Now, what happened with this bill? And we're not done yet. As mentioned, we're going back on November 10th. There was a hiccup. We had it on the 1-yard line. We got it out of the Senate. It was over in the House, and several amendments were added. Most were just technical amendments, not a problem. There was an amendment added that dealt with folks' medical marijuana, and there's concern there. And I agree with the concern that if you could not be high, but you could still have THC in your system from something medical marijuana you took before. No one wants anyone to drive impaired. That amendment, though, got the concern of the AAA as well as the state police and the Pennsylvania FOP. And because of that, and you got to understand, at the end of the session, bills are flying all over the place. They got a lot to try to get done in that last day. This was Wednesday, the final day of which would be a normal legislative session. And so they didn't get it out of appropriations. That said, we have a meeting today at 2:00. I called Curry Bettinghoff, the House Majority Leader, who I'm good friends with because we came in together and I served with Curry. And my staff is meeting with his staff today at 2:00. Although they weren't looking to do legislation, when we go back, he's committed that he is going to try to resolve this issue so that we can get that bill out of the House and over to us for a final vote and to the governor. So I have not given up on Deanna's Law. I am fully expecting that we can get that across the finish line after the election and when we go back November 10th. And I'll know a little more today after this 2:00 meeting.
Thank you, Senator Killian. Time for one more question or thoughts as we close this morning, because I want to keep it to an hour because I know you are so busy. But other than the budget, what do you see each of your legislative priorities for the start of next year?
So I think that in my case, there's, well, it's hard to say priorities because there's several things going on at the same time. Obviously, a solution for what we're dealing with with regard to the pandemic. That means some medical virus, vaccine of some sort. The support of how that is fairly distributed across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to all people who need it, and figuring out what that priority looks like going forward. We continue to keep Pennsylvania safe in this space, so that we're occupied in. So the pandemic obviously is a area of focus. But if you're asking me priorities, then it really is about twofold areas. One, education and economics. Both have a direct consequence to all Pennsylvanians, but much more significant consequence to rural Pennsylvanians who may be white and of modest income, to urban Pennsylvanians who may also be of modest income, but may be of a different ethnic background. The lack of quality education in both of those areas is driving Pennsylvania to have young people to continue to leave the state. And because of that, the economic opportunities don't grow and companies don't come and corporations don't provide economic realities that they can in other places that have occurred across this country. We are sitting on a land of opportunity, but we're missing the mark as it relates to our policies and investments in terms of money. And we need more money from Harrisburg to do these things. We hope that we work in partnership with you all who are in the chamber. That means that you all shouldn't be obligated to training folks as they come out of college. There's some basic things that they should have a skill set to do that we may not be doing in our state system of education or undergrad or high school. And we certainly need to be much more aggressive in terms of partnering with investing so that you can grow your businesses. And so those are two areas of priorities for me.
Thank you, Senator Williams.
I'll just quickly follow up. Obviously, anything we can do COVID related to get the economy open again, and when there is a vaccine, working with the federal government to make sure we can get that to everyone. But separate from that, if I'm back in January, and I hope to be, and I plan to be, but my focus is along the riverfront in the city of Chester. I was able to help get a grant to fund a study for the Riverfront Alliance group that I sit on that board. We have a real opportunity in the city of Chester, given the beauty of that riverfront. If you've been down to the soccer stadium and you see what that's like, and we have all that open space down there, and we have a committed group of nonprofits and business leaders that are fully committed, and especially the Union soccer team. The president of the Union soccer team, he is absolutely, you got to hear him speak. I mean, he really believes we can begin to turn the city around, taking advantage of that asset we have there at the riverfront. And that will be my top priority, working with those businesses, those nonprofits, and then what we can do at the state level. And as chairman of the committee that oversees economic development and working with the secretary of DCED, and we've had him down there, and he saw the vision too, that we can really accomplish something in the city of Chester and that riverfront. And that goes back to what we talked about earlier, that will provide jobs, will provide a tax base so that we can help improve the Chester Upland School District, which is critical. So that will be my top priority, as well as working along obviously on COVID and education issues across the Commonwealth.
Thank you, Senator Killian. Senator Carney?
I think one of the things that really surprised me when I took office and became a senator was the sheer breadth of issues that were so important. And it was not only the breadth, but the fact that so many of them were interconnected and interwoven in ways that I hadn't really understood before. So every time we talk about education funding, we're also talking about jobs. We're also talking about the results of these various things. We're talking about opportunities for people and how we sort of make sure those things can continue to happen. In terms of priorities moving forward, there's a whole list of things that we're working on and we're pushing. I think I want to talk real quick about, we have legislation out now to create a countywide fire authority. And the idea is that fire and EMS would be able to take advantage of an authority around issues like fundraising, around issues like HR services, around the sort of the business aspects of running the fire department, in ways that would allow them to maintain their individual identity with their fire department, which is very important to firefighters, but also kind of lift some of those burdens off their shoulders and allow them to concentrate on doing things like fighting fires, and not on things like whether my paperwork was correct or whether those things are working. So and we have bipartisan support on that. I'm hoping that we were hoping to get it through this year, but it didn't. It's not working. We're going to reintroduce it in December for next session going forward. It's as both my colleagues have said, properly dealing with the COVID crisis is something we can't forget about. We're all tired of it. We're all tired of wearing masks. We're tired of not being able to feel comfortable in public spaces and all these other sorts of things. But the one thing that all the science do agree on is that mask wearing is usually important, and not so much to protect yourself as much as to protect everyone else. Because we still don't understand how it's transmitted. We don't understand why people can be completely asymptomatic but can be spreaders. I thought it was a sad day back in April when mask wearing got politicized on the national level and in Harrisburg as well. It's something that we should be able to do to start to get through this. If we had worn masks, through the springtime and early summer, the way we should have, then we wouldn't be seeing the numbers we're seeing now. So I'm going to end with, wear your mask, wash your hands, be kind to people, and that's what we need to really do to make it through this.
Great, thank you so much. I want to thank everybody again for their support of the Delaware County Chamber of Commerce. Senator Williams, Senator Killian, Senator Carney, thank you for joining us this morning. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, and thank you for being committed to Delaware County and our region. We will be looking to you in the next couple months to help us as we form our different committees and work on the different issues. And Mike Crotty, thank you so much for being the chair of the committee, and thank you to our sponsors. We truly appreciate your support, and it's 10:01, so I want to make sure we keep everybody to time. So thank you. Have a great day, and don't forget to wear your masks.
Thank you.
Take care.
Take care.